Good evening, all of our loyal fans out there. I'm Scott M. Graves, and I believe we also have another Scott Graves here. Is he there?
Yeah, I'm Scott Graves too. So I have a J middle initial.
You got two Scott Graves here, ladies and gentlemen, for Scott's on the Rocks Politica podcast. How you doing tonight, Scott?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing really cool. I'm fired up, actually. We've got no shortage of things that we can actually talk about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dive right in if it's okay with you.
Yeah, of course.
I want to start on the national level first. We're talking about sort of rats escaping the sinking ship here. And that is to say that right at the head of this week, we watched last weekend a lot of mainstream Republicans, including Senator Sasse from Nebraska, the New Hampshire party leader. I know her last name's Horn. A lot of people calling Trump out on his ineptitude, on the danger it poses to the country, all kinds of stuff. So I just have one question for everybody. It's just sort of like a standing question. Where were these people? Where have they been the last 4 years in the continuing dumpster fire that seems to be the Trump administration? And I say that not in a partisan sort of way. I mean it in a way of, as being a business owner and having administered along with whole teams of very, very talented people. It took all this time before they'd start saying something. That's just kind of how I feel. I feel like a lot of this has just been a dumpster fire almost from the very beginning. I'm interested to see what you think.
Well, I don't see it that way at all. I don't see rats jumping off the ship. I don't know what you're watching. You got to be watching CNN or MSNBC out there, Scott. Seriously. And the thing is, where's it been for 4 years?
I don't watch. I read a lot of newspapers and magazines and trades, and I listen.
Well, that's your first problem, reading newspapers. See, you read newspapers is 99% liberal.
Let's hear what do you think then?
Well, I think for 4 years. So, if you were seeing a new phenomenon, and that would be Republicans jumping off a sinking ship like rats, as you put it, I would agree with you that where you've been for the last 4 years. But I don't see that happening. I don't know what you mean by that. Sasse has always been wishy-washy. Sasse, I think, is if it wasn't for his religious beliefs, he's pretty conservative when it comes to abortion and Fifth and 14th Amendment substantive due process. He's pretty conservative about that, but otherwise, he's obviously an anti-Trumper. He's always been. So Sasse is kind of a bad example. Now, if you were saying somebody like I don't know, Ted Cruz or somebody was jumping off the ship, I would say, yeah, oh my God, that's something that really means something. But for the past 4 years, and so on the other side of that, the Republicans would say, and I'm neither as well. I mean, I float both ways on a lot of things, mostly conservative. But for the past 4 years, I think you have to admit that the economy was doing. I know Obama takes credit for it, but the economy was doing better than ever. Until COVID
hit. Whose economy? That would be my question. Whose economy, right?
The country's.
No, I get that, but who within the country's economy? I mean, the market, publicly traded markets have done phenomenally well, and going well beyond and before the Trump administration, publicly traded markets have done phenomenally well for some time, except for the gross exception being the crashes like the one we had in the Great Recession. But we've pretty much created an economy that doesn't need people. That is to say that the market has increasingly developed into a place in which we don't need a lot of people employed. And really, we just need people for little more than collateral at the times that we need more collateral to make those kind of bets that are made in the publicly traded market. So that would be my question to that would be, whose economy? Now,
well, let me just respond briefly
outside
to
the
that.
economy, if we strictly look at the Trump administration as an administration, a group of people that are working the various levers of government, he's had all kinds of personnel issues.
But let me stop you for a second, Scott. Let me stop you for a second, because I think you're leading into something that I can agree with you on. But going back to, the stock market or, Wall Street health, there's a lot of people out there. I'm sure you know, most people that you know have maybe college funds for their kids, 401ks, IRAs, all those things are doing great. And the typical blue collar person, most of us have some of that stuff. We might not have much in it, but we're all seeing it go up. When Obama was in there, it was like hitting rock bottom. And since Trump has been in there, so if you want to call it Wall Street or stock market or whatever, that's good for working people that have 401ks and IRAs. But and I think where you're going though is, and you sound like the establishment people who say Trump is he's haphazard, he's not professional, he's off the cuff, he's not overly intelligent to the extent where he just says things that a lot of times stupid. And I can agree with you on that, but I would also say, and I'm going to let you go, but he's not a phony. You know exactly what he's thinking because he says it.
So, but so I would say to that, so what? I mean, I am a person who.
What do you mean, so what? So the lobbyist out in his back pocket.
I want my president, whoever that person is. I'm not one of these people who thinks he's not my president. I didn't vote for him. I would never vote for him. I don't vote as a small business owner myself, and as somebody who helps other small businesses start small businesses. I don't want to vote for anybody at any elected official level who screws all of their subcontractors and who strategically, and I mean this in a negative connotation, strategically commits to bankruptcy in order to get out of paying people when they can. Okay, and he's done that. This guy has done that long before he was president. I have a problem with that. I'm okay having a president, or for that matter, any elected official at any level, right on down to municipally, who's frankly at certain things or maybe all things better than me. Like I'm okay with somebody being intellectually profoundly smarter than I am, and having that person be in some sort of administrative role over a certain level of government. You know, I don't need. It sounds like what you're saying is that for a lot of folks, they can have a connection to him because they feel more, you know, it's like, it goes back to 20 years ago, you know, like, oh, I could have a beer with him. Yeah, I'd vote for him.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that intelligence, book intelligence or college education intelligence means jack squat. If you don't know what you're doing, like Trump knows what he's doing. He's street smart, if you want to call it street smart, common sense smart. Is he the nicest person in the world? No. Is his IQ off the charts? No. But I mean, do you want an egghead?
Let me ask you this.
Egghead in there? We haven't had an egghead in there, I think, since Woodrow Wilson, right?
Do you feel like he's? What do you feel about his moral background? Is this a moral president?
Now, if you wanted to get at the morals of, say, Bill Clinton and Joe Biden and Trump and whatnot, like, what are we're gonna get a magnifying glass and go back to somebody like Mitt Romney picked on somebody in like 8th grade and he got freaking hammered for it when he ran against Obama. It's like, how deep are we gonna get into people's morals? And then you hear certain anecdotes or certain stories about what Trump did, bankruptcy or whatnot. But it's like you can pick and choose things, bad things and good things about any candidate.
I think I'm not trying to say that a candidate has to have never done anything wrong in his or her life, because no one is perfect. But I do think that there's a certain threshold in which a candidate can be judged. I don't think, as an example, since people often bring it up, and you have as well, I don't think that Bill Clinton, I think what he did was profoundly wrong, yet he could still administer the country. I get that, but he compromised our belief in him, and after doing so, we couldn't trust him anymore. And I'm specifically.
Yeah, but you're talking about morals, right? What kind of morals? What kind of morals are you talking about? If you're not talking about cheating on your wife and your family, I mean, isn't that moral?
All of that, but all of that is wrong, and we have to hold the people who are going to be, especially leaders of our entire country, up to a higher standard. I have no problem that people say that's a double standard, but the level of, you know, he's not selling insurance.
Not what?
You should be honest when you sell insurance too, you know?
No, I know, but it's in this day and age, let's face it, it's what the media is going to present to you and present to the voter that he or she bases their vote on. So whatever you're getting on whatever station you're watching, or whatever internet blog you're on, or whatever newspaper you're reading, for the most part, that's what's going to, in these days, that's what's going to persuade the common voter. A lot of people, and we said it last episode, a lot of people have no idea. They're not into it, or they're too busy, or they don't care, but they want to vote anyways for some reason. Most people don't vote, but for the people who do vote, but don't really know anything about the candidates or about the issues, they just wait for, like, this bomb that just dropped on Joe Biden. They wait for something like that, and they go in and they vote based on that. After 4 years of having, Trump and the other side hashing out issues. So it's like, what are they getting? What are the voters getting for information?
Well, increasingly, in a bipartisan way, we are creating theater. All of this is very purposeful. It's about creating theater that distracts people, whether they are people who are willfully ignorant or engaged citizens like us, right? It becomes increasingly more and more difficult, even for those of us that can tell the difference between op-ed versus just straight up reporting and journalism. It's hard to get information, right? I don't know if you feel that way. I feel like it's
No, you have to do research. You have to
administration. It's harder and harder and harder. Because and this is really the epitome this past 4 years, where it's literally just a fire hose of theatrical information, I'll call it. And in the meantime, we just don't really know what's going on. And that's dangerous. That's dangerous to any sort of democratic system. You know what I mean? When you just simply can't get solid, rational information. It's in part why we started this show, right? That we want to show people,
right.
By example, that two guys who don't always agree have more that they agree on than not, and we can have a rational conversation about it.
Yeah, without throwing food. But there's a book written by Daniel Boorstin, he's a Pulitzer Prize winning author. And I'm actually reading it right now because it's been referenced a lot. It's called The Image, or something like that. I think it's called The Image, by Daniel Boorstin, famous guy. He's the one I quote sometimes. He said, it's not ignorance that is the obstacle to discovery. It's the illusion of knowledge, which means, the people that think they know the answers are more dangerous sometimes than the people that are just plain ignorant and know they're ignorant.
They won't, the implication there being because they won't admit when they don't know, which when you're open to saying, I don't know, what would be next, you open yourself to potential enlightenment.
Right. And you go look for answers or whatnot. You're like, oh, I don't know that. I got to go learn. But the reason I brought him up in The Image, the book, The Image, is because he created the phrase or the term called the pseudo event. I don't know if you've heard people say the pseudo event. So and I think it was the Kennedy-Nixon debate on TV. Beginning with that debate, the news media made themselves the star of the show and the Hollywood performer. So now what you get out there is all these networks and now on the internet you get it a lot, where they'll come up with some event and make it seem like it's this big event, and they'll talk about it all day long. So I think that's basically what you were getting to, is like, so what exactly are we talking about? We're talking about sometimes the stupidest things, like, Joe Biden, what kind of shake did you get? Vanilla or chocolate? And they'll talk about it all day long. Maybe that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? It's like,
no. It's like going on for 3 weeks during some hot debates on taxation when we should have been talking about that, and instead we were talking about the fact that George H.W. Bush didn't like broccoli, and that the Broccoli Board of America, whoever it was like, bullshit about that, and how it was, broccoli sales are tanking.
Right. or Kanye West was in the Oval Office, and they'll talk about it for freaking 3 months when there's all kinds of other things going on, like an infrastructure bill that never got passed or whatnot. We'll talk about Kanye West because he's in the president's Oval Office. That's a pseudo event, and they run with it because that's what the masses want to see.